This is the book of John, chapter 12, verse 31. Now is the time of this world to be judged. Now the ruler of this world will be thrown out. I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Almighty Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Almighty Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the men of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is Brother Boaz on the set once again. Now it's the time of the overthrow of this man, okay? The so-called white man, he only have a little bit of a kingdom left, okay? He's going to be destroyed like we discussed, and he's going to get eradicated, okay? So, picking off where we left off at, if you want to be saved, you have to come back to Yahweh Yahweh Shai so you can make it up with your life when this thing goes down, okay? The so-called white man's going to get overthrown, okay? He's going to basically, the nations are going to get sick of the so-called white man and drop missiles on them, okay? Then when he get annihilated, the elect is going to come out of some wheels inside wheels, what you call UFOs, and round them up and put them into slavery, okay? They're going to get put straight into slavery, okay? That's what this is about, okay? And if you want to make it out with your life, you have to call upon Yahweh, Yahweh Shai while you still can, while the doors of mercy are still open. The book of Psalms, chapter 149, verse 5. Let the people rejoice in their trumpets and sing joyfully all night long. Okay, so when this happened, we're going to sing joyfully all night long. Verse 6, let them shout aloud as they praise Yahweh with a sharp sword in their hands to defeat the nations. Okay, to defeat the nations. What's that talking about? Putting them into slavery, okay, and eradicated. That's why he says, I give gifts to men, okay. He rides captives captivity, okay. That's what it says, okay. I put captivity, okay. That's what it says. Okay, he raised gifts to men. That's talking about the so-called white man getting put straight into slavery. Okay, for 1,000 years, then getting eradicated. Okay, that's the men, women, and children. Okay, that's what this is all about. To punish the people, to bind their kings in chains, their leaders in chains of iron, to punish the nation as Yahweh has commanded. This is the victory of Yahweh's people. Okay, so this is a victory. Okay, it looks grim for us. Okay, but when Yahweh Shai gets here, the elect, they're going to be saved, okay, and they're going to inherit the kingdom of heaven, and all the other nations, they're going to get put into slavery, okay. We're going to have breeding farms, okay, where we're going to breed these devils, okay, and whip these devils, okay, for 1,000 years, okay, and put them to death, okay. That's why it says, why does the heathen rage? That's what it says, okay. Let's go to it. The book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 1. Why do the nations plan the rebellion? Why do the people make useless their plots? Okay, so the so-called white man, he thinks in his head, he thinks he's going to rule forever. The so-called white man did in his head that he's going to rule forever. He think he got plans of 2036, 2040. No, the so-called white, this man's going to get put into slavery. Okay, we got months left. Okay, that's why it says Satan come down with great wrath because he knows his time is but a short. Okay, the so-called white man's time is short. Okay, he only got a little bit of time left. Okay, and while you have time, clean up your life and come back to Yahweh Yahweh Shai while you still can, while the doors of mercy are still open, so you can make it out of here with your life when this thing goes down. So your life will be a prey. That's what this is all about. Their kings revolt, their rulers plot together against Yahweh and against the king he chose. Let us free ourselves from their rule. They say, let us throw off their control. Okay, so they say they want to throw off our control. Okay, they're going to try to fight not to get put into slavery, but they're going to get shackled and put into slavery, okay? And they're going to try to fight against Yahweh Shai, okay? That's the nerve of this devil. He's going to try to fight against Yahweh Shai himself, okay? And when he does that, he's going to get totally eradicated, okay? He's going to get eradicated, okay? That's why you have to come back to Yahweh Shai now, okay? It's only going to take Yahweh Shai 1 hour to destroy this man, okay? It's only going to take him 1 hour to destroy this man from putting him into slavery, okay? That's all it's going to take. Verse 8, as and I will give you all the nations, the whole earth will be yours. You will break them with a rod of iron, and you will shatter them in pieces of clay pots. Now, and listen and warning, you kings, learn from this, you rulers of the world. Serve Yahweh with fear and tremble, and bow down to him, or else he be angry and be quickly aroused, and you will be suddenly die. Happy are all who go to him for protection. So happy are all those who trust in Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, okay? Happy are all those who trust in him. That's what this is about, okay? You have to put your faith and confidence and hope in Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, okay? That's what this is about, okay? Especially when the day of the Lord happens, that dark day, that's when the so-called white man's going to fall out of power, okay, and lose steam, okay? That's what this is about, okay? That's when the so-called white man's going to fall out of power and lose steam, okay? And so the only thing left is Yahweh Shai, okay? And you coming back to him so you can make it out of here with your life when this thing goes down. That's what this is about. However, the book of Revelations, chapter 2, verse 25. The book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 25. The book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 25. But until I come, you must hold firmly to what you have. What you have is this Bible and the truth, okay? You have the Bible and this truth, okay, about in a sound doctrine of Yahweh Shai. To those who win the victory, who continue to the end to do what I want, I will give you the same authority that I received from my Father. I will give you the authority over the nations to rule them with an iron rod and to break them to pieces like clay pots. I will also give them the morning star. Okay, so basically ruling them with an iron rule, bashing the so-called white man over his head. If he gets out of line, bash him over the so-called white man. Then if he gets put to death, we have spiritual power, put the spirit back in that devil again, whip that devil and put him to death again, okay? The so-called white man's going to catch hell in the kingdom of heaven, okay? That's what this is about. The so-called white man's going to catch straight hell, okay? And we don't got too much longer, okay? We don't got much longer. Revelations. Revelations 12, verse 9. The huge dragon was thrown out, the ancient serpent, that's the so-called white man. the serpent's name, the devil or Satan, that deceives the whole world. That's why how he deceived the whole world. He got you saying you a black American. He got you saying that you a Cuban. He got you saying that you're a Dominican Republican. He got you saying that you a Brazilian. It's all the same people, okay? That's why it says Satan deceived the whole world, okay? He was thrown out, he was thrown down to the earth and his angels with him, okay? The so-called white man, okay? He's going to try to fight Yahushua, and he's going to get annihilated. He's going to try to fight Yahushua, and he's going to get totally annihilated. Second Ezra. Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 3. And I beheld, and lo, that the man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, and while he turned to his countenance to look, all things trembled that were under him. All things trembled that was under him, because you're going to see a UFO the size of a planet, a big giant. The whole planet is going to see a giant UFO. That's why the scripture said they're going to weep and mourn. Because why? Why are they going to weep and mourn? Because all the bullshit games come to an end, okay? Like we discussed on multiple occasions. Last hired, first fired, okay? Slavery, okay? Can't find a job, okay? All the bullshit comes to an end, okay? That's why the scripture said they're going to mourn, okay? All nations, because they're going to get put into slavery, okay? That's what this is about, okay? But if you don't want to get caught in the crosshairs and the crossfire, you have to come back to Yahweh Shai while you still can, while the doors of mercy are still open, so you can make it out of here with your life, and so you don't be destroyed on the day of the Lord when this thing goes down, okay? And Jacob's trouble. Verse 4, and whatsoever voice went out of his mouth, they burned that heard the voice, like the earth felleth when it feels the fire. After this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of the number of the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. That's talking about all nations are going to try to, with their militaries, are going to try to unite together and fight Yahweh. They're going to be scared as hell, okay? Because they're going to see a big planet, okay? UFO, okay? Traveling, okay? And they're going to see some angry black men, wheels inside wheels, okay? Riding somewhere, like it says in the book of Ezekiel, wheels inside wheels. But I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself on a great mountain, and he flew upon it. That great mountain is a big giant UFO. But I would have seen the region or the place where the hills was graven, and I could not. So Ezra was trying to find, like, where did Yahweh get this giant UFO from? Okay, what mountain did he grave it from? Okay, but he couldn't find it. It comes from heaven. Okay, it comes from the spiritual realm. Lo, and lo, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor held a sword nor any instrument of war, but only I saw he sent out fire, a laser beam out of his mouth, and blast of fire out of his lips, as a flame of breath out of his tongue, and cast out sparks of tempest. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flame of breath, and the great tempest, and fell upon the violence of the multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burned them of every one, so that upon a suddenly of a new multitude, nothing was left to the perceive, but only dust and smell of smoke. Then I saw this, I was afraid. So they got eradicated. Okay. So when Yahweh Shai gets here, okay, all nations are going to fight him, okay, and they're going to get eradicated. Okay, that's what this is about. Okay, and then when the so-called white man gets destroyed, okay, all the other nations are going to lose their power, and he's going to chain them up and put them into slavery. Okay, that's what this, and they're going to start building the kingdom of heaven. Okay, for 1,000 years. Okay, they're going to be in a hardcore cattle slavery. Okay, that's what this is about. Okay, so the game here is to come back to Yahweh Shai while you still can, while the doors of mercy are still open, so you can make it out of here with your life when this thing goes down, okay? So you can make it out of here with your life, so you don't be destroyed when this thing goes down. That's the game here, okay? That's what this is all about. Afterwards, I saw a same man. This is verse 30. This is verse 12 of the second Ezra 13, verse 12. Afterward, I saw the same man come down upon the mountain and called him unto another peaceable multitude. That's the elect. And some came much people unto him. Wherefore some were glad, some were sorry. The so-called white man is going to be sorry because he's going to be put into slavery. Some of them was bound. See that? They was bound. They was put into slavery. And others were brought to them and offered them was I was sick through fear, and I awake and said, Thou hast showed thy servants these wonders and beginnings, and has counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. Okay, so that's what this is about. Okay, and if you got enough time now to make it out with your life when this thing goes down, I suggest you come back into Yahweh Shai while you still can, while the doors of mercy, while he still got his men, the prophets, out on the highway and byways and the hedges, preaching. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is near. Repent while you can. The kingdom of heaven is near. Repent while you can. Okay, because the kingdom of heaven is near. Okay, okay. There's nothing left here in America. America's old news. America's going down. Can't you see America's destroyed? It's going down. Okay, this setup is going down. It's going to be destroyed. There's nothing left here in America. Okay, you have to come back to Yahweh Shai. Okay, he revealed himself to the men in GMS. Okay, we got his name. Okay, the father's name is Yahweh. Okay, and his son's name is Yahweh Shai. Okay, he revealed himself. Okay, now you have to come back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures. Okay, so you can make it out of here with your life when this thing goes down. Okay, there's nothing left for the so-called white man. He's going to get put into slavery. That's why he's going to go and try to do his new world order. Okay, he's going to try to ship the world. Okay, but when he does it, that's his ass. Okay, that's the so-called white man's ass. When he implement that mark of the beast, that's this white man's ass. That's what's going to trigger this impending judgment. Okay, on him. Okay, that's what's gonna do it. Okay, that's why that's what the nations are gonna say. They hate the whore. They hate the whore and burnt it with fire. Okay, one moment. The book of Revelation 17, verse 17. For Yahweh has placed in their hearts the will to carry out his purpose by acting together and to give in to the beast their power and to rule until Yahweh's words come true, okay? They're going to hate the whore, okay? And they're going to burn her with fire, okay? The 10 horns, the 10 horns is Russia, Germany, France, England, okay, the Spain. They're gonna hate the whore and drop missiles on this man already. Okay, they're gonna get sick of America and drop missiles on him. Okay, the book of Revelation 17 verse 16. The 10 horns you saw, and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will take everything away she has and leave her naked and eat her flesh and destroy her with fire, okay, with missile technology, okay, mainly Russia, okay. Russia, they're going to get tired of America and they're going to drop missiles on this man, okay, and eradicate this devil, okay, and then the remainder of the so-called white man that's left, they're going to put them into slavery, okay? That's what this is about, okay? So you have a chance now to come back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures so you can make it out with your life when this thing goes down. That's what this is all about, okay? Yahweh Shai, he's reconciling things with you right now. Okay, it's a doctrine of reconciliation because he had hostility to us. He had hostility to us, but now he's reconciling things. He's coming back to us. The book of let's go to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 17. Okay, the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 17. Okay, one moment. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17. Anyone who is joined to Christ is a new being. The old is gone, the new has come. All this is done by Yahweh, who through Mashiach changed us from the enemies into his friends. Okay, so he changed us to enemies and to friends. Okay, so and no greater love than a man sacrifice his life for his friends. Okay, so Yahweh Shai gave us a doctrine of reconciliation. Okay, that's what this is about. He gave us a doctrine of reconciliation. Okay, to come back to who we are and to clean up our life. Okay, and to keep his commandments to the best of our ability so we can make it out of here with our life, okay, and enjoy the peaceful kingdom of heaven, okay. The joy is the riches and the glory and the riches and the kingdom and the glory is nothing. That's why it says no eye, no ear have seen Yahweh beside thee what you have for those that wait for you, okay. Let's get it. The book of Isaiah. Okay, one moment. The book of Isaiah. Okay, give me a second here. I gotta find it. So that's what this is about, okay? And that's why no one likes GMS. That's why no one likes GMS, because GMS got the most hardcore doctrine out there, okay? Because what they saying, okay? They saying the so-called white man, we're not going to sing Kumbaya in the kingdom, okay? The so-called white man's going to get eradicated, okay? What they saying. The other nations are going to get put into hardcore slavery. What they saying. We going to be on top, okay? And ruling forever, all eternity, okay? When this thing goes down. It's not like they're going to have a God that we have, okay? That Yahweh answers our prayers when we call out for Him. They don't have a God like that, okay? They just heathens, okay? That's all they are. They just golem heathens, okay? The book of Isaiah, chapter 64, verse 4. No one has ever seen or heard of a power like you who does such deeds for those who put their hope in Him, okay? So you have to put your hope into Yahweh Shai, okay? That's what this is about, okay? And come back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures, and come back into your rightful place, okay? If you're an Israelite, okay? But if you're not an Israelite, that's your ass, okay? You're going to get eradicated, okay? You're going to be destroyed. That's what this is about. You're going to get eradicated, okay? And put straight into slavery, okay? That's why that's the benefits of being an Israelite. Okay, if your father's line go to the father line go to Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, your forefather, your foreparents, and the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, that's what this is about, and it's only going to take Yahushua 1 hour. Let's get it. The book of Romans. Let's see if we can find it. The book of Romans. The book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 27. And Isaiah exclaims about Israel, even if the people of Israel, as many as the grains of sand by the sea, only a few of them will be saved. So you got to ask yourself a question: if Yahweh is eradicating His people, what is He going to do to the so-called white man? Okay, if He's eradicating it, because it's only going to be a few of them to be saved. It's not going to be a lot of Israelites to make it out with their life when this thing goes down. Okay, if He's doing this to His people, what you think He's going to do to these so-called white men? Okay, they're going to be destroyed. Okay, and put into slavery. Okay, in shackles. That's what this is about. They're going to be destroyed. Okay. For verse 28, for Yahweh will quickly settle His full account with the world. If is as Isaiah have said before, if Yahweh Almighty have not left us some descendants, we would have became like Sodom. We would have been like Gomorrah. Okay, when Yahweh dropped missiles on them, and he did the same thing. He dropped missiles on Sodom and Gomorrah. And when he dropped, or missiles or lasers, when he dropped those missiles and lasers, the whole place is desolated and destroyed. We don't even know what Sodom and Gomorrah is. Okay, you just see Lot's wife looking back. Okay, still as a pillar of salt. Okay, that's what this is about. So you want to know what this Bible's about? That's what this is about, okay? Coming back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures, okay? While the doors of mercy are still open, okay? While you still can, okay? That's what this is all about, okay? So you don't get eradicated on the day of the Lord when this thing happens, okay? The day of the Lord is when the so-called white man falls out of power, okay? And you seeing America is losing steam every day, okay? The book of Joel, chapter 1, verse 15. The day of Yahweh is near, the day when the Almighty brings destruction. What terrible day that they will bring. Okay, so that day is for you so-called white people. Okay, that day is going to be a terrible day. Okay, because you're going to lose your power and you're going to lose your steam. Okay, you're going to lose your posture from the world as world rulers. Okay. Okay, that's a dominant race. Okay, you're gonna lose. Then you're gonna get put straight into slavery. Okay, that's what this is about. Let's go to it. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14, verse 16. The dead will stare at the graves as a grape at you. They will ask, they're going to ask, is this the so-called white man who shook the earth and made kingdoms tremble? Okay, they're going to look at you and say, is this the man while he's a slave in a kingdom and desolate? Okay, a nobody in the kingdom, a no people in the kingdom. Is this the man? That's what they're gonna say. That was ruling. That was ruling. That had everything going for them. Okay, that built up the glorious kingdom of America. That bombed countries and took their resources. Is this a man? And made kingdoms to tremble? Is this the man who destroyed cities and turned the world into the desert? That chopped down the rainforest, okay, and destroying the earth? Is this a man who never freed his prisoners or let them go home? Have the biggest prison systems in the world, okay, here in America. That's housing Jakes, so-called Latinos, Native Americans, and Negroes. Okay, is this the man? They're gonna wonder at this man. They're gonna say, "Wow, the so-called white man fell from heaven." Okay, the Satan or Lucifer, the so-called Illuminati, fell out of power. That's what they're gonna say. That's what they're gonna say when the so-called white man falls out of power and he got put into slavery. I can't believe it. Okay, wow, I can't believe the so-called white man lost rulership. Okay, he's gonna get overthrown. Okay, the book of Jonah. The book of Jonah, chapter 3, verse 3. So Jonah obeyed Yahweh and went to Nineveh, a city large that it took 3 days' walk through it. Jonah started to walk the city, and after walking a whole day, he proclaimed, in 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. Okay, so you only got 40 more days, and then America's going to be overthrown. It's going to be destroyed. Okay, it's going to get eradicated. Okay, 40 more days until the white man's put into slavery. Okay, with all the other nations. Okay, and put in shackles. Okay, he only got 40 more days. Okay, until Nineveh's overthrown. The so-called white man's gonna get put straight into slavery. Okay, that's what this is about. Okay, that's why it said Luke. That's why it says in the book of Luke, chapter 16. Lazarus, come dip your finger and cool my tongue, because I'm in this quenching of fire. Okay, that's why I say that. Okay, what you think he mean by that? Okay, come and quench my thirst. Okay, because he's catching hell. Okay, he's getting whipped in the kingdom. Okay, put to death. Okay, starving. Okay, you getting seeing his family's ripped away, put into slavery. Okay, His woman's going to be a bed wrench. Okay, that's what this is about. That's what this is all about. Okay. And you got to come back to Yahweh Shah while you still can, while the doors of mercy are still open, okay? So you can make it out with your life when this thing goes down. That's why it says in the book of Acts, save yourself from this obtuse generation. The book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 40. Peter made his appeal to them, and with many other words, he urged them, saying, "Save yourselves from the punishment coming to this wicked people." Okay, what punishment? What you talking about? What's this about? What's this about? What punishment? The book of 2 Peter, chapter 3, verse 10. What punishment are you talking about? Which one are you talking about, so I know? 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. But the day of Yahweh will come like a thief. On that day, the heavens will disappear with a shrill noise. The heavenly bodies will be burnt up and be destroyed, and the earth and everything in it will vanish. Okay, that's the punishment coming to this place. Okay, that's the punishment. So you have a chance and opportunity, so you could come back, so you could come back into who you are. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. But do not forget one thing, my dear friends, that there is no difference in Yahweh's sight between one day and 1,000 years. Okay, so Yahweh Shah is he's eternal, he's infinite. So 1,000 years is like a day to him. To him, it's like, and two are like the same. This Yahweh is not slow to what he promised, as some think. Instead, he is patient. So he's patient. Okay, he don't want to see his people get eradicated, because he does not want anyone to be destroyed, but he wants all to turn away from their sins. So he don't want to see his people get eradicated, okay, but he will do it, okay. That's why it says 2/3 are going to be are going to get eradicated and put down, okay? But that's the best thing for them, okay? Because so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they're such a rebellious and stiff-necked people. That's going to be the best thing for them, okay? So they could get put down and come back as some babies in the kingdom and raised and taught right properly the knowledge of Yahweh Shai and the kingdom of heaven. That's going to be the best thing for them, okay? So they could come back to who they are in relationship to these scriptures, okay? That's what this is all about, okay? And you only got a little bit of time left, okay? Time is of the essence, it's ticking, okay? And like you heard me say this again, and I'm going to continue to say this, if you take the mark of the beast, and if you here in America, that's your ass, okay? That's your ass, okay? You're going to try to save your life. What the scripture says, you're going to have to lose your life for my sake. And you're going to try to save your life for you on this side, dealing with this so-called white man, this devil. You're gonna lose your life. You're gonna lose your life. Okay, that's why the scripture says, and you heard me bring this out. You gotta lose your life if you want to try to gain your life. Okay, you gotta give everything up. That's what this is all about. Okay, that's what this is all about. Okay, coming back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures. Okay, that's what this is all about. The book of Jude. The book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 22. Show mercy towards those who have doubt, having others by snatching them out of the fire, and the others show mercy mixed with fear, both hating the very clothes stained by their sinful flesh. Okay, so if you could snatch others by saving them from the fire, and if you know these scriptures, okay, and if you know what you should be doing, but you're not doing it, let's get it. There's a penalty. Okay, if you know what needs to be done, but you still lukewarm, you're not doing what Yahweh Shai commanded you to do, and you not coming clean. Okay, you just trying to be a basic civilian. Okay. The book of, let's start at the book of 45. The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 45. But if that servant says to himself that his master is taking a long time to come back, and if he begins to bear the other servants, both the men and the women, and drink and get drunk, then the master will come back on a day when that servant does not expect him, and at that time he does not know. The master will cut him into pieces and make him a share the fate of the disobedient. The servant who knows his master's what he wants do it, but does not get himself ready to do it, will be beaten with a heavy whipping. So if you do, if you know Yahweh Shai's will, and you heard these videos, and you still playing around, you're going to get a heavy whipping. You're going to get annihilated. But the servants who does not know what his master wants, and yet does something of worth, he deserves a whipping, he will be punished with a light whipping. Is okay. So that's all the Israelites that don't know who the Israelites. They never heard about the videos, and who the Israel. They're going to get a light whipping. Much is required for the person to whom is given, and much more is required from the person of whom much more is given. Okay, so if you know what you need to be doing, okay, and you still messing around, okay, and you still lukewarm, you're gonna get a heavy whipping. Okay, okay, come back into Yahweh Shai, okay, while you still can, while the doors of mercy is still open. Okay, the so-called white man is the past. Okay, his rulership is over. Okay, his best days are over. Okay, so now is that's why if you look at it, no great movies or series that came out. Okay, it's all going down. The mirth of this place is going down. America's destroyed. Okay, it's nothing left in this country. Okay, America's destroyed. Okay, that's why you have to come back into who you are in relationship to who you are in relationship to these scriptures. Okay, come back into Yahweh Shai. Okay, come back into who you are in relationship to these scriptures. What are you teaching up to you? These are the teachings about the Holy Scriptures. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 1. I will climb my watchtower and wait to see what the Lord Yahweh will tell me to say when I answer him, and will give to my complaint. Okay, so so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American, and then we complaining to Yahweh. Okay, when you gonna bring this devil down? Okay, when are you gonna put him into slavery? Okay, when you gonna eradicate the so-called white man? When is he gonna be destroyed? Verse 2, Yahweh have given this answer, write down clearly on tablets what I revealed to you so that it will be read at a glance. So Yahweh said, write it down. If you don't believe it's going to happen, write it down. Okay, see if my words come true or not. Okay, that's what this is about. Okay, write it down, put it in the writing, because it is not yet time for it to come true, but the time is coming quickly, and what I show you will come true. It will seem slow in coming, but wait for it. So it seems slow in coming. Okay, that's why they say, when is the day of his coming? When is he going to come? He's not coming back. That's why it says he's slow in the day of his coming. Okay, it seems slow. Okay, it seems slow. That's why he says he seems slow as his coming, but he's not coming back. Okay, it seems slow. It may seem slow in coming, but wait for it. It will certainly take place, and it will not delay. So Yahweh Shai say it's certainly going to take place. Okay, okay. When you see a big giant UFO of like a planet coming down, okay, shaking the earth violently, okay, you're gonna see that, okay. You're gonna see that with your eyes, okay, before you die, okay. You're gonna see Yahweh Shai coming in great glory. And this is the message to those who are evil and will not survive. But those who are righteous will live because they are faithful to Yahweh. Okay, so the wicked, they're not going to survive. Okay, the wicked are going to be destroyed. Okay, they're going to get eradicated. Okay, the so-called white man, basically what's going to happen, he's going to lose steam. That's what's going to happen to the white man. He's going to lose steam. And all the other nations, they're going to drop missiles on him. They're going to get sick of him. They're going to get sick and tired of him and drop missiles on them, okay? Missile technology on them, okay? Advanced missile technology on them, and drop missiles on them and burn them up alive, okay? That's what this is about. That's what this is about, okay? And if you don't want to get caught, okay, and if you want to be up to a little bit of people to make it out, to escape with your life, come back into Yahweh Shai while you still can, okay? So you can make it out with your life, okay? You might can't save your family, okay? You might only save yourself, okay? That's why it says if Daniel, Ezekiel, Samuel was in it, they could only but save themselves. Okay. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 5. Wealth is deceitful, greed, people are proud and restless. Like death itself, they are never satisfied. So the so-called white man, he's never satisfied, okay? He pillaged the earth, he destroyed everybody, took all their resources, okay? He put us into slavery, but he's not satisfied. That is why they conquer nations after nations for themselves. They conquer people and taunt their conquerors and show their scorn for them. They say, "You make you take that wasn't yours." Okay, that's a so-called white man. He takes what he's not as his, but you are doomed. Okay, so the so-called white man's doomed. Okay, that's it with the so-called white man. That's it with him. Come back into who you are. Okay, this so-called white man's doomed. Okay, that's it with him. Okay, that's it with him. Come back to Yahweh Shai. Okay, while you still can. Okay, while the doors of mercy are still open. Okay, so you don't get eradicated with this devil. But you are doomed. How long will you go on getting rich by forcing your debts to pay up, okay? So how long are you going to just forcing your debtors to pay up, okay? Your debts, okay? This whole setup is run on debt. That's all this is ran on, is debt, a fiat currency, paper money that's not worth nothing, okay? That's why every day everything is getting more expensive and more expensive, okay? That's what this is about, okay? Come back into Yahweh, Yahweh Shai while you still can. That's why he says, don't worry about them. The book of Psalms. The book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 1. Don't be worried on account of the wicked. Don't be worried about this devil, okay? Don't worry about this devil. He's going down. Don't be jealous of those who do wrong. They will soon disappear like grass that dries up. They will die like plants that wither. Trust in Yahweh. So he says, don't worry about the so-called white man. Trust in Yahweh. Okay? Trust in Yahweh and do good, live in the land and do safe. Seek your happiness in Yahweh, and He will give you your desires of your heart. Give yourself to Yahweh, trust in Him, and He will help you. He will make your righteousness shine like the noonday sun. Be patient and wait for Yahweh to act. Don't be worried about those who prosper or those who succeed in their evil plans. So don't worry about the so-called white man, okay? Because he's going to try to go for his new world order. He's going to try to go for it and get eradicated when he does a process or does a transaction, okay? He's going to try to go for it. And when he goes for it, he's going to get eradicated. That's what this is about. Don't give don't give to the worry of anger. It only leads to trouble. Those who trust in Yahweh will possess the land, but the wicked will be driven out, okay? The wicked will be driven out. Soon as the wicked will disappear, you may look for them, but you won't find them. But humble you will possess the land and enjoy prosperity and peace. The wicked plot against the good people and glare at them with their hate, okay? They glare at them, okay? They hate us, okay? But Yahweh laughs at the wicked people. Ho, 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 ho. The deep, dark, demonic laugh, Yahweh Shai God. Ho, 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 ho. In heaven, okay? Scare you half to death if you hear Yahweh Shai laugh, okay? Hear Yahweh laugh. Because he knows that their doom, that they will soon be destroyed, okay? So Yahweh Shai know that they're soon going to be destroyed, okay? That's what this is about. That's what this is all about. Coming back into who you are. And I'm going to leave it there. We like to thank Almighty Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. Okay, Shalom.